The twin suns of Varelia Prime painted the capital city in soft gold light. Shining towers of glass and crystal stretched toward the clouds, glowing like fire at sunset. It was a world of diplomacy and order. A meeting place for dozens of alien races who had once fought each other, but now spoke through peace. Among the many species that filled the Grand Council Hall, there were only a few humans. They were new to the galactic stage, short-lived. Emotionally, unpredictable, yet somehow, they had changed the course of history in only a few decades. Sorellen, a young Varelian diplomat, never understood them. To her, humans were strange creatures, fragile but loud, reckless yet brilliant. And among them, one stood out the most. Captain Elias Rook. He wasn't a soldier or a politician. He was an engineer, a problem solver. When other species argued for years about theory, Elias would walk in, look around, and say, "Let's just fix it." Then he would actually fix it. Sorellen had been assigned to work beside him as a liaison between the Council and the Human Expeditionary Division. She had first thought it was a punishment, but soon realized how much he was respected. Every time there was a disaster, a reactor meltdown, a failing habitat dome, a dying planet, Elias Rook was the one they called. For 2 years, Sorellen worked with him, and during that time, she learned more about humans than from any report or archive. Elias laughed often. He treated high-ranking officials the same way he treated maintenance crews. He shared his food, told strange jokes, and sometimes hummed while fixing broken machines, and slowly against her will. Sorellen began to admire him, but admiration is a fragile thing, and pride can break it in a single moment. The argument happened on the 7th day of the Corroan Terra project. A new colony world had suffered an unexpected collapse. Its atmosphere generator failed, and thousands of settlers were at risk. Elias and his small team of engineers had been sent to fix it. Sorellen joined them as the Council's observer. The mission was already tense. Varelian scientists had warned Elias not to use his unproven human methods, but he ignored them. Instead of waiting for official approval, he started repairing the generators himself. For hours he worked without rest, hands dirty, eyes focused. Sorellen watched in silence, her pride boiling as he bypassed one safety rule after another. Finally, the core overheated, releasing a massive surge of energy. The containment field flickered, alarms blared, and the engineers rushed to shut it down. The colony barely survived the explosion when it was over. The Council blamed him. In the command tent, Sorellen faced Elias. Her voice was sharp, her eyes cold. "You've endangered an entire colony. You humans act like heroes, but you never think. You never listen. You think your way is always right?" Elias stood still, his face pale under the emergency lights. "I was trying to save lives," he said quietly. "Save lives?" She snapped. "You almost destroyed the planet. Maybe this is why so many call humans reckless. You come here, break our systems, and call it progress." Silence filled the room. The other engineers avoided her gaze. Elias slowly took off his gloves, placing them on the table. "You're right," he said softly. "Maybe I don't belong here." Sorellen hesitated. The anger in her chest cooled a little, but her pride didn't let her speak again. She turned away, pretending not to see the look in his eyes. Disappointment, mixed with sorrow. Elias gave her a faint smile before walking out into the storm. It was the last time anyone saw him. The disappearance the next morning, his quarters were empty. His tools, datapads, and personal communicator all gone. No ship records showed him leaving the planet. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. The Council sent search teams for months. They found nothing. Some said he had stolen a ship and fled. Others whispered that he had been captured or killed by raiders. But Sorellen knew better. Elias Rook wasn't the kind of man to run away. He had once told her, "If something breaks, you don't walk away from it. You fix it." And yet, he was gone. Years passed. His name slowly faded from reports and discussions. The colonies moved on. But not Siralin. She tried to bury her guilt under work. Negotiations, treaties, endless speeches. She convinced herself that he had survived, that he had chosen a new mission somewhere far away. But every time she saw a human delegation enter the council hall, her chest tightened. None of them were him. The memory one evening, decades later. Siralin walked through the same hall where she had first met Elias. The stars beyond the glass roof shone faintly, and she could almost hear his voice again, that calm tone, the way he would joke even in crisis. "Do you ever stop talking, Rook?" She had asked him once. "Not if it keeps you from worrying," he had replied with a grin. She smiled faintly at the memory, then sighed. "I should have said sorry," she whispered. Her assistant, a young alien named Tren, looked up in confusion. "Counselor." "Did you say something?" "Nothing," she replied softly. "Just remembering an old friend." But he wasn't just a friend. Deep down, she'd always known that. She had pushed him away because she was afraid of how much she respected him, how much his human spirit made her question her own. Now, it was too late. The message the next day. During a regular session of the Galactic Council, an urgent report came in. A long-range probe had picked up a faint signal, one that matched ancient Terran frequencies. Used during humanity's early expansion era, the technicians displayed it on the screen. It was badly distorted, repeating the same code again and again. ER07. Saralin's hands froze. The code was simple, but she recognized it instantly. It was Elias Rook's personal identification, the one he used for all his missions. The room filled with noise as council members argued about its origin. Some said it was a false reading. Others thought it was an old satellite. But Siralin sat in silence, her heart pounding. "Where did it come from?" she asked. The technician hesitated. "From the outer edge of the grave expanse, Counselor, no known colonies. The region is considered unreachable." The grave expanse, a vast, dark sector of space filled with ancient debris and distorted energy fields. No ship that entered ever returned. But Saralin's mind was made up. For the first time in decades, her voice was firm, alive with purpose. "Prepare an expedition," she ordered. "I'm going to find out what happened to him." That night, standing alone on her balcony, she gazed at the twin suns of Virelia sinking below the horizon. For the first time, she allowed herself to speak the truth out loud, the truth she had buried deep within her heart. "I was wrong, Elias," she whispered. "I thought humans were reckless. But maybe it was me who was afraid." The wind carried her words away into the dark sky, toward the endless stars, and somewhere far beyond the edge of the known galaxy. A faint signal continued to blink, patient and unwavering, like a heartbeat waiting to be found. 30 years had passed since Elias Rook disappeared. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Empires had fallen. Alliances had shifted. And the once peaceful world of Virelia Prime had become the heart of a growing galactic government. At the center of it all stood Counselor Siralin, her silver crest showing her long years of service. To most people, she was a symbol of calm, authority, wise, logical, untouchable. But inside, a quiet storm had never faded. The memory of one human, that human, still haunted her every day. Its Council of Shadows. The council chamber was filled with sound. Representatives from 100 worlds argued over trade routes, defense fleets, and treaties. Siralin listened without truly hearing. Her gaze often drifted toward the star map on the far wall, a glittering display of countless systems. Every time her eyes passed the dark void on the edge of the map, her heart grew heavy. The grave expanse, a region no ship entered willingly. It was where the signal had come from decades ago, but the investigation had been abandoned. The probe that detected the code was lost shortly after. The council decided it was a false echo. The discussion ended. The matter was forgotten by everyone except her. Whispers of the past late one night. Siralin walked through the quiet archives of the Grand Library. The shelves were filled with data crystals, glowing softly like stars. She had permission to access restricted files, a privilege earned by years of service. She stopped at a terminal and entered a command. Subject search, Rook, Lias. The system hesitated before replying. One result found. Status, missing. Officially presumed deceased. Small hologram appeared, his face, still young, still human. His eyes held that same spark she remembered, confident but kind. She reached out a hand, tracing the image with her fingers as if she could touch him. "You never came back," she whispered. "Why didn't you come back?" Suddenly, the lights flickered. The hologram blinked, and then, for a brief second, the same signal code appeared in the corner. -07. Her heart leaped. She tapped the console again. The symbol vanished. The system returned to normal. Was it a glitch or a sign? Either way, the message was clear to her. He was calling again. The forbidden expedition the next morning. Sorellen appeared before the council, her expression calm, but her mind set. "I request authorization for a deep space expedition into the grave expanse," she said clearly. The chamber fell silent. A dozen counselors turned to stare. Counselor Marek, a broad-shouldered alien with scaled skin, frowned. "Impossible. That region destroys ships. We've lost entire fleets there." "I know," she replied. "But new energy readings suggest stable zones may have formed. I am willing to lead the mission myself." Marek narrowed his eyes. "You're chasing ghosts, Sorellen. There is nothing out there." "Shh. Then I will confirm it with my own eyes." The council whispered among themselves. Many disagreed, but few dared to challenge her authority directly. After a long debate, the motion passed by a narrow margin. She had what she wanted, official approval to enter the expanse. But this was not about politics. It was about him. The journey begins. The expedition ship Star of Dawn launched 2 weeks later. Its silver hull gleamed under the twin suns of Varelia. The crew consisted of scientists, engineers, and navigators from multiple species, all loyal to Sorellen's command, as the ship left orbit. Sorellen stood on the observation deck, watching the stars blur into streams of light. Her heart beat faster with every passing moment. "Coordinates set," reported the pilot. "Destination, grave expanse. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Sorellen nodded. "Engage." The ship entered hyperspace with a gentle hum, and the stars vanished, for the first time in many years. Sorellen felt something she hadn't felt since Elias was alive, hope. Echoes in the dark, the grave. Expanse was unlike any place they had ever seen. The stars here were dim, their light swallowed by drifting clouds of cosmic dust. Strange metallic fragments floated through the void remains of ships, satellites, and unknown machines. The navigation systems flickered constantly. Energy storms rippled through space like waves of electricity, yet. Deep within the silence, a faint rhythm pulsed. "Picking up a signal," said the communications officer. "Pattern matches old Terran code." Sorellen's hands trembled slightly. "Put it on the main channel." The sound filled the bridge, a repeating pulse, steady and familiar. ER07. ER07. -07. It was weak, but real. The crew exchanged nervous glances. "Can you locate the source?" Sorellen asked. "Approximately 0.2 light-years ahead," the officer replied. "There's a planet? No known records of it? A planet in the middle of the expanse? That shouldn't have been possible. But then again, many impossible things had Elias Rook's name behind them." "Set course," she ordered. "We're going in." The silent world, the world appeared slowly through the fog of cosmic dust. It was half gray, half silver, not natural rock, but something artificial covering the surface like metal veins. Scanners showed oxygen, stable temperature, and faint traces of human DNA. Sorellen stared at the image in disbelief. "He was here," she whispered. They descended into the atmosphere. The sky was filled with thin light, and the surface below shimmered like liquid steel. When they landed, the ground hummed faintly beneath their boots. It was alive, mechanical, yet pulsing like it had a heartbeat. The crew began scanning the area. collecting samples. Counselor, said one of the scientists, this is beyond understanding. The structure reacts to us. It's adapting. Sorellen walked toward the center of a vast plain, where a tall tower of crystal and metal rose into the clouds. At its base, she saw human markings, old, faded, but unmistakable. Property of Elias Rook, Human Expeditionary Division. Her knees weakened. She touched the engraved letters with trembling hands. You did survive, she whispered. You built this. The hologram inside the tower, they found a large chamber filled with glowing panels. A soft blue light illuminated the room. When Sorellen stepped forward, the light focused on her. A hidden projector activated, and then a figure appeared before her. It was him. Elias Rook stood there, or rather, a holographic image of him. He looked exactly as she remembered. Same smile, same calm eyes. Hello, the hologram said gently. If you're seeing this, I guess someone finally found the place. The crew froze in shock. Sorellen could barely breathe. I didn't make it off this world, the recording continued. But don't worry. It's not a grave. It's something else. I used what I had to build a system. A living world that can heal other worlds. Maybe one day, it'll spread across the stars. He laughed softly. If Sorellen's there, tell her I forgive her. I always understood. The hologram flickered and ended. Sorellen sank to her knees, tears shining in her eyes. For years she had carried the weight of her harsh words, her pride, her silence. Now, hearing his voice again after all this time, the burden finally broke. The choice the crew found: no human body, no remains. Only technology far ahead of anything known, clean, balanced, and alive. They realized the world itself was his legacy. His creation had turned into a self-sustaining organism, restoring damaged planets nearby. One of the young officers whispered. He became part of it. Sorellen stood silently, staring at the horizon. No, she said softly. He became hope. That night, as the expedition ship prepared to leave, Sorellen stayed outside, sitting on the metallic ground. The stars above shimmered faintly. She closed her eyes and spoke quietly to the wind. I spoke harshly once, Elias. I said things I never meant. But you never stopped building, never stopped believing. I'll make sure no one forgets what you did. The surface beneath her glowed faintly, as if responding to her words. For a brief second, she thought she saw a figure standing beside her, a human silhouette smiling in the starlight. Then it faded into the air, as the star of dawn lifted off. Sorellen looked down at the silver planet one last time. The quiet hum of the ship filled the cabin, but in her heart, she could still hear another sound, steady, gentle and endless. 07. ER07. ER07. Not just a signal anymore. It was the sound of forgiveness. The sound of a human's legacy that refused to die. The Star of Dawn hovered quietly above the strange silver planet, surrounded by swirling clouds of soft blue mist. The crew worked day and night, scanning the surface and gathering every piece of data they could. But even after weeks of study, no one truly understood what this world was. To most of them, it was a miracle of science. To Counselor Sorellen, it was something far greater, a message left behind by a man she once hurt and could never forget. Every time she walked through the alien structures, she could feel his presence, not just in the technology, but in the quiet, peaceful rhythm of the world itself. It felt alive. It felt human, a living machine. The planet was unlike any known world. Half of it looked like natural rock, but beneath the surface lay veins of glowing silver metal that pulsed with a steady light, like blood through a body. Scientists discovered that the air remained balanced automatically, repairing itself after storms or damage. Even the soil regenerated, slowly forming new life. Plants, some alien, some earth-based, grew across the plains. His work, whispered Sorellen one morning, as she stood before a field of silver-blue grass. He made this from nothing. Her assistant Tren looked amazed. It's as if the planet listens to us, he said. When we move, the surface responds, gently, like it's aware. Sorellen nodded. Elias used to say, machines should be built like friends, not servants. Maybe he meant this. The idea made her smile, though her heart still ached. The hidden city a few days later. The exploration team found something unexpected. Beneath the largest tower, scanners detected hollow spaces. Deep below the ground, a massive underground structure. When they entered through a metallic passageway, their lights revealed long corridors lined with faintly glowing walls. Symbols of human design were carved alongside alien script, blending together perfectly. This must be his base, said Trent softly as they went deeper. They found living quarters simple, clean, and organized. There were chairs, tools, even a bed made from repurposed ship material. Dust covered everything, but nothing seemed damaged. Sorellen ran her hand along the wall. He lived here, she said quietly. Alone. A small console blinked in the corner. She touched it, and the screen lit up. Dozens of video logs appeared, each labeled by date. Her breath caught in her throat. They're his recordings. The crew stepped back as she played the first one. The voice of the past, the hologram, flickered to life. Elias appeared, tired but smiling. Behind him, the same metallic structures glowed faintly. Day 37, his voice said. The storm broke the ship. I can't leave. Supplies are fine, but the signal won't reach anyone. He looked around, then laughed softly. Guess I'll have to make myself useful. If I'm stuck here, might as well build something worth leaving behind. Sorellen listened silently, her eyes glistening. Another log played automatically. Day 142. I've started merging the Varelian organic processors with human nanofabrication. It's working. The planet can repair itself now. Feels alive somehow. Paused, glancing toward the camera. I keep thinking about her, Sorellen. She wouldn't like how messy my workshop is. Sorellen's lips trembled as she covered her mouth. The recordings continued, months turning into years. His hair grew longer, his face thinner, but his voice stayed calm, steady, hopeful. One day he said, Maybe they think I'm gone. That's all right. I've got company. He smiled and tapped the metallic floor. This planet listens. Another log showed him teaching small drones to plant seeds. In another, he built music boxes that played soft melodies when the wind passed through. He never gave up, Tren whispered. Sorellen could only nod, unable to speak. The final message then came the last log. The hologram was dim, the image weak. Elias looked older now, not aged by years, but by solitude. Yet there was peace in his eyes. If anyone ever finds this, he began, know that this place is safe. It will heal itself, and maybe heal other worlds too. That's what it was made for. He smiled softly. If Sorellen is the one who finds it, tell her I forgave her a long time ago. She only said what she believed. I hope she learned that humans aren't reckless. We just refuse to stop trying. He chuckled quietly. Goodbye, old friend. Keep the stars bright. The image faded. No one spoke for a long time. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the planet around them. Sorellen finally whispered, he called me a friend. Even after what I did, her voice broke and tears ran down her face. She didn't hide them. She didn't need to anymore. The pulse, when they returned to the surface, the planet began to react. The ground glowed faintly beneath their feet, spreading out like ripples on water. Energy readings spiked across the sensors. The silver veins brightened, reaching toward the sky like streams of light. What's happening? Tren asked in alarm. Sorellen steadied herself. It's responding to us. It knows we found him. The glow concentrated into the tall crystal tower, and suddenly, the same hologram from before appeared above it, not a recording this time, but a projection that looked almost alive. Elias Rook's image smiled at them, gentle and kind. Welcome, he said, his voice echoing softly. You found it. Good. The crew froze, astonished. This world doesn't belong to me, the hologram continued. It belongs to everyone who believes life should never be given up on. Take what you learn here and share it. Don't let fear guide you. Sorellen stepped forward, tears still in her eyes. Elias, she whispered. I'm sorry. I was wrong about you. About humans. The projection looked at her and tilted his head with that familiar smile. You were never wrong, he said. You just hadn't seen what humans could be. The hologram shimmered and began to dissolve, its light merging into the air. The tower's glow faded to a soft silver. The planet returned to calm silence, but Sorellen felt something had changed inside her. And perhaps across the stars. The discovery back on the Star of Dawn, the scientists began analyzing the data. What they found astonished everyone. The planet wasn't just self-repairing, it was sending signals to other systems. Subtle energy waves that carried genetic and technological blueprints. Each signal is aimed at a dead or damaged world, one of the scientists said. It's spreading the code, restoring ecosystems remotely. Sorellen stared at the readings in awe. He built something that keeps healing the galaxy, she said softly. Even after his death, he's still saving lives. Tren looked at her and smiled faintly. Maybe he's not gone. Maybe he's part of this now. Sorellen looked through the viewport at the glowing world below. He's everywhere, she said quietly. Every spark, every breath of life, he left it all behind. A promise that night, alone in her cabin, Sorellen recorded a message for the Galactic Council. This is Counselor Sorellen. I found proof of Elias Rook's work. He created a world capable of healing others. His design could save dying planets across the galaxy. I recommend immediate preservation of this site and the beginning of a new research initiative. She paused. Then added softly, let it be called Project Rooklight, in his honor. She ended the recording and looked out at the stars. Her reflection showed a face older, wiser, and finally at peace. Elias, she whispered, I hope you can hear me wherever you are. Your light still shines. Outside the window. The planet pulsed once, a soft heartbeat of silver light that spread into the darkness, as if answering her, and somewhere far beyond the known systems. Another faint signal echoed back the same familiar rhythm. 007, ER07, ER07. This time, it didn't sound lonely. It sounded alive. The stars shimmered quietly beyond the viewport of the Star of Dawn as it drifted above the silver planet. It had been 3 weeks since the discovery of Elias Rook's world. Yet the crew still found new wonders every day. To many, it was a scientific breakthrough. To Counselor Sorellen, it was something much deeper, a second chance to understand. The man she had once hurt and lost. She spent hours walking through the planet's glowing fields, listening to the faint hum beneath the soil. It felt like a heartbeat, calm, steady, alive. She liked to imagine it was his heartbeat echoing through the ground, whispering that he was still here. Messages from the planet the research teams had set up. Dozens of scanners around the main structure. Every few hours, new energy waves pulsed out from the planet, carrying data far into space. Dr. Velen, the chief scientist, explained their findings to Sorellen one morning. The planet is releasing encoded energy patterns, he said. We've tracked some of them reaching nearby systems. Wherever they land, the soil begins to change. It becomes fertile again. Sorellen's eyes widened. So his creation, it's healing other planets? Yes, Velen said with a proud smile. And we believe there are more like this, smaller worlds, spreading his design even further. It's like a network of life. Sorellen looked down at the silver grass under her feet. He built something that never stops giving, she whispered. Even when he was alone, he thought about others. Velen nodded slowly. That's the human way, isn't it? She smiled faintly. It's the Elias way. The awakening one evening, as the suns dipped below the metallic horizon, the planet began to vibrate. The ground shimmered. And energy lines spread out like rivers of light. The crew rushed outside, worried about a possible quake, but Sorellen felt no fear. She somehow knew this wasn't danger, it was communication. Readings are off the charts, shouted Tren, her assistant. It's generating massive power from the core. Suddenly, beams of light shot into the sky from 5 points around the planet, forming a pattern like a constellation. Each beam pulsed with rhythm, the same pattern as the old human signal code, ER07. 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 It's him, Sir Alan said softly. It's Elias. The beams formed a spiral in the air, and from their center emerged a holographic projection. Elias Rook once again. But this time, more vivid, more lifelike than before. His eyes sparkled with warmth. Hello again, he said gently. You're standing in what I hoped would become a message of peace. If you're seeing this, then my little world has done its job. The crew stood in awe. No one dared to speak, Elias continued. I learned something while I was here. Machines and life don't need to be opposites. They can work together, grow together. Every planet I touched is now part of a greater system. It will take centuries, but one day the galaxy will heal itself. Then he looked straight ahead as if his gaze met Saralin's through time. And if Sir Alan is there, he said softly, thank you for coming. I always believed you would. Her hands trembled. Elias, she whispered, her voice shaking. I'm sorry for everything I said, the hologram smiled. You don't need to be. You made me think harder. You made me prove that humans aren't reckless, that we can build, not just destroy. He paused, his expression kind. You taught me something too. You showed me that every word matters, even the harsh ones. The projection faded, leaving behind a glowing sphere that floated gently toward Sirelin. It hovered before her like a drop of light. She reached out, and it landed softly in her hands. What is it? Tren asked in awe. Sirelin held it close. His memory, she said quietly. His gift, memory cored back aboard the Star of Dawn. Scientists examined the glowing sphere. Inside it were millions of data fragments, journals, blueprints, and personal notes written by Elias Rook. Dr. Velen looked amazed. This isn't just his work. It's his mind. His thoughts, dreams, and everything he learned. It's like a piece of him survived. Sirelin spent hours reading his notes. Many were small things, sketches of the stars, simple words like still here, or keep trying. One entry made her heart ache. Sometimes I think of Sirelin. I wonder if she ever understood that I wasn't angry. Maybe she'll see one day humans don't give up because we're foolish. We do it because we care. Another page read. If I ever see her again, I'll tell her something important. Even broken bridges can be rebuilt if someone has the courage to walk across. Sirelin closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. You were right, Elias, she whispered. I just never had the courage before. The storm, man, the 10th day after the projection appeared, a sudden surge of energy hit the ship. The skies darkened, lightning crackled, and the entire planet began to tremble. Energy waved from the core. Shouted a technician. It's too strong. It's pulling power from our systems. The ship's lights flickered. Gravity shifted. Alarms rang. Sirelin rushed to the command deck. What's happening? Dr. Velen shouted over the noise. It's trying to connect with us to share its energy. But it's overloading the systems. Tren struggled to stabilize the controls. We can't hold orbit much longer. Sir Alan stared at the planet below, now glowing with bright silver light. It looked like it was calling out for help or giving one final message. Let it connect, she ordered. The crew looked at her in disbelief. If we cut the link, we'll lose everything, she said firmly. This is his legacy. We can't turn away from it. After a tense pause, Velen nodded. Understood. They redirected the ship's power to the connection. The screens flickered wildly and suddenly stabilized, and then silence. A soft voice echoed through the speakers. It was Elias. You're brave to trust me, said calmly. Don't be afraid. This energy isn't destruction, it's renewal. I made this world to share life. Now it's time. The storm faded. The light from the planet dimmed, replaced by a calm silver glow. On the screens, new data appeared, a star map showing dozens of worlds across the galaxy, each marked with faint signals. Sirelin stared at it in wonder. These are the planets he healed, she said softly, and the others he wanted to reach. The message ended with one final phrase written in Elias's handwriting. Don't mourn what's lost. Build what's next. The promise of Rooklithwin, the ship returned to Virilia Prime months later. Sorellen stood before the Galactic Council. She presented the evidence, the recordings, the data, and the living proof of Elias Rook's creation. The human engineer you once dismissed as reckless, she said firmly, has given this galaxy the greatest gift of all hope. The council chamber fell silent. Even the proudest voices had no argument. She raised the glowing sphere, the memory core for all to see. I propose the formation of a new alliance, she continued, one that follows his vision. We will call it Project Rooklight, to spread his design across the stars and heal every broken world. The vote passed without resistance. As the session ended, Sorellen looked toward the great window above the chamber. The twin suns of Virilia shone brightly, their light warm and golden. She placed her hand over her heart and whispered, "You're not forgotten, Elias. Your light will guide us all. A light that never fades that night." Standing alone on her balcony, Sorellen watched the stars. The new star map shimmered on her handheld device, each glowing point representing a world. Touched by Elias Rook's legacy, she thought of the man who had taught her what humanity truly meant, not power, not pride, but compassion, courage, and hope. As she gazed into the night sky, one star flickered brighter than the rest, the silver world where he had lived and died. She smiled softly. "You were right," she whispered. "Humans don't build bridges to burn them. They build them so others can cross." A gentle breeze swept past, and for a brief moment, she felt a warmth against her shoulder, as if someone stood beside her, silent but proud. The stars glowed brighter, and the galaxy, slowly and quietly, began to heal, carrying forward the legacy of one lost human whose heart was stronger than any machine. The twin suns of Virilia Prime rose slowly over the capital city, spilling golden light across the council hall. It had been months since the discovery of Elias Rook's world, and the entire galaxy was buzzing with excitement. Everywhere, scientists, engineers, and diplomats spoke of the living planet, the energy signals, and the potential to restore dying worlds. But for Counselor Sorellen, this was not just a triumph of science, it was the culmination of a lifetime of regret, hope, and rediscovered friendship. She stood at the top of the council hall, facing the assembly. Her silver crest gleamed in the morning light. Today, she was not just presenting a discovery, she was carrying forward a legacy. The presentation's Harney raised her hands, allowing the holographic projection of Elias' world to appear above the council chamber. The room was silent, awed by the sight of the glowing silver planet and its network of restored worlds. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady, "what you see here is not simply a miracle of science. This is the work of a human engineer, a man named Elias Rook. He disappeared decades ago, but his creation lives on. It heals worlds, restores ecosystems, and spreads hope across the galaxy." A counselor whispered, "A single human accomplished all this?" Sorellen nodded. "Yes, and he did it not for power or recognition, but because he believed life was worth protecting. Humanity does not give up, even when the odds are impossible. Elias Rook is proof of that." Screens lit up across the hall, displaying star maps where signals from the restored worlds pulsed faintly like fireflies. Some planets had begun to bloom again, while others showed signs of clean water and growing vegetation. "This," she said, "is the beginning of a new era. An era of Rooklight, a program that will continue his work and ensure that life thrives wherever it can." The chamber erupted in applause. Sorellen closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the man who had taught her the true meaning of courage. A quiet moment after the council session ended, Sorellen walked alone to the balcony overlooking the city. The suns reflected off the glass towers, and she could hear the distant hum of ships leaving the spaceports. She held the memory core, the glowing sphere containing Elias' notes and recordings, close to her chest. Every day she carried it, she felt his presence. A soft voice echoed in her mind, almost as if he were speaking directly to her. Even broken bridges can be rebuilt if someone has the courage to walk across. She smiled, tears forming in her eyes. I finally understand, Elias. I finally see. For decades, she had carried regret, the harsh words that pushed him away. Now she realized those words could no longer hold power over her. He had moved beyond them. So must she. The first restoration, the first planetary restoration under Project Rooklight, began with a small desert world at the edge of the galaxy. Its atmosphere was thin, its soil dry and cracked. Humanity had once abandoned it, believing it beyond hope. Sorellen personally oversaw the operation. She activated the transmission of Elias energy patterns, and the planet began to change. Slowly at first, the dust swirled, gathering into clouds that shimmered with silver light. Small seeds, planted by drones designed according to Elias's blueprints, sprouted against the barren soil. Streams of water formed where none had existed before. The council members watched in awe. Some of them had never believed in humans' ability to create such miracles. Sorellen held her breath as she whispered, "This is his gift. This is what he wanted to show, that no world is beyond saving." By nightfall, the desert had become a shimmering landscape of silver plants, tiny waterfalls, and renewed life. It was as if the planet itself was smiling. The star named Rookiers passed, and Project Rooklight spread across the galaxy. Worlds once thought dead became vibrant again. Communities thrived. Animals returned. Rivers flowed. Forests grew. The council decided to honor Elias Rook in a unique way, one of the restored planets. The first one they had saved would be named after him, Rook. When Sorellen visited the planet, she stood on its highest peak, overlooking green valleys, crystal-clear lakes, and forests that sparkled in the twin suns. "This is his gift," she said aloud, her voice full of reverence. "His heart, his courage, and his faith in life live here. His light will never fade." The wind carried her words across the valleys, and for a moment, she imagined she saw a faint silver figure smiling in the distance. A reflection of Elias' spirit in the world he had saved. A message to the galaxy Sorellen continued to travel, speaking to leaders across multiple species, sharing the story of Elias Rook. Humans are often underestimated, she would say. They are fewer in number, unpredictable, and sometimes reckless. But what makes them extraordinary is their courage, their willingness to act, and their compassion. Elias Rook is just one example of what humanity can achieve. Her words inspired diplomats, engineers, and scientists alike. A generation of humans, aliens, and hybrids began to work together under the Rooklight Initiative, expanding the healing network across previously uninhabitable regions. The galaxy began to change slowly, but inevitably, a personal closure even as the galaxy celebrated. Sorellen never forgot the man who had started it all. One evening, on the balcony of her private quarters, she whispered softly to the stars, "I never deserved your forgiveness, Elias, but I promise your work, your spirit, and your light will guide us all. I will honor it every day until my own time comes." The twin suns set, casting a golden glow over the city. Somewhere in the distance, a faint signal pulsed gently. "7. ERO7. -07. It was faint, but alive. A heartbeat echoing across the galaxy, carrying the courage, hope, and persistence of one human who refused to give up. Sorellen smiled. For the first time in decades, she felt peace. Legacy beyond time. Decades later. Stories of Elias Rook were told across multiple worlds. Children learned about him in school. Scientists studied his blueprints. Leaders followed the principles he had embedded in Rooklight: care for life, boldness in action, and hope beyond despair. Sorellen, now old but proud, visited Rook one last time. She walked among the forests, touched the streams, and felt the pulse of the world beneath her feet. A gentle breeze stirred, and in the silver light, she imagined Elias standing beside her, smiling quietly. "You were right," she whispered. "Humans don't burn bridges. We build them. and walk across them together. The planet shimmered in reply, a soft pulse of light rippling through the forests. It was a signal, a heartbeat, a promise that life, courage, and hope would continue. Forever, a galaxy transformed as Sorellin returned to Verelia Prime. She looked to the stars and saw the results of his legacy. Worlds once dead now teemed with life. Planets once barren were now thriving ecosystems. The network of Rook light grew silently, invisibly, touching corners of the galaxy that few could reach, and in every pulse of the planets, in every faint signal echoing across the void, one truth remained: humans, even when few in number, could shape the galaxy. And one human, Elias Rook, had done so not through weapons or conquest, but through hope, ingenuity, and the courage to never give up. Sorellin looked out at the endless stars, smiling softly. "Your light shines everywhere," she whispered, "and it always will."